Hi, I'm Kristin from Melotti, and I am the Director of Melotti Media Copywriting and Message Marketing Bureau, and my agency looks after the words part of marketing. Arielle?
Hi everyone, my name is Ariel Bowers. I run Two Giraffes. It is a full-service video production and animation studio.
Hi, I'm Mike Sandys, Managing Director of Oddball Marketing. We're an action-orientated marketing agency.
Hi, my name's Kristin Hancock. I'm from Font & Swatch Branding and Design Studio, and we work to create unique brands for professional services businesses.
So in this episode, we are discussing real estate marketing. Now, the real estate industry has been around for a long time, and it's a very important part of Australia and all over Australia. And so this is our opportunity to discuss marketing and the role that marketing plays in the industry. The industry is evolving quite rapidly, and agencies are evolving and brands are evolving. And so this is a fantastic opportunity to speak to legendary real estate guru Lee Woodward and discuss how the industry is changing and evolving with technology and how marketing has a play in that. So welcome, Lee.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all of you giving us your time. I want to start the topic today on the real estate marketing process. When we look at a house, is done so well. Our agents will use drones, they've got copywriters, great photography, the photography's Botox to the hills. We've got panorama tours. We've got 3D floor plans, and it looks absolutely amazing. But they don't apply that same moment when they market themselves. It's like a mechanic with a Datsun 180B sometimes, where you think people are going to Google what's a Datsun 180B, but a mechanic doesn't look after their car. And I think in real estate marketing now, our agents have realised they've got to be their own mechanic. They can't just outsource this. They can get guidance and help from outsourcing companies, but they've got to control and own their own identity in marketing. So we can market a house, but we can't market an agent. And an agent is the brand. People buy off people, not companies. And we're seeing a huge shift of, I want Lee to sell my home because we met, or I've read a post that he wrote on should you move or should you renovate. So what I'd really like to get into from each of your areas of expertise is what guidance you would give to the agents on if we could market you as good as you market a house is my topic. So Chris, we'll start with you. You've done some amazing work in the real estate industry and spoke for my members many times. What are the go-wrongs in the agent's words and choices of angles of words in, let's say, social?
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective because, as you know, we met when I was a marketing manager of Divine Real Estate in Sydney, and that was the issue there as well. It was that a lot of agents were afraid to either go out on their own and to market themselves or promote themselves, and it is a relationship-driven industry, which means that, as you said, Lee, it's the communication and the style needs to be direct to people. And I know that there has been those issues where the brand holds the agents because they don't want the agents to be marketing themselves. And so there's a real big sort of industry issue there. But it really is. People love relationships. And so specifically with social media, it's the opportunity for the not only the brand, but the personal brand to come across and communicate with people. And agents have a lot of style and there's a lot of difference. And I know I've just been selling two of my properties actually. And it's funny watching the different modus operandi, with how they do things, because you've got two agents in Tasmania who are really excited and really motivated and they try different things, and you've got some in, say, Brisbane who take the more traditional approach, and watching the differences there. So I think for agents there's a real opportunity today to really get out there and make a difference and let their personality shine, because I was saying to Arielle that 75% I feel of their role now is marketing themselves and the property, and then there's that leftover 25% for negotiation. So, there's a lot of work that needs to be done for agents, and they should embrace their personality across social, everything. Was that an answer to?
Yeah, no, it's a good answer, because an agent, to be a leading agent today, you need followers.
Yes.
And someone may say, that person does really good acreages. So I'm going to follow them because if I want to buy an acreage and they've done 10 in a row, I need to check out what they're launching because I may miss it.
Yes.
And right now there's a huge industry conversation, which is not a good one. The real estate agents are using an incorrect term called off-market, where it's technically off-portal. They're using social first, And what we teach is stage marketing of work your database, then social. But even with social, and I might move this over to you, Ariel, we're advising the agent to do a beautiful digital link that will showcase the property for its first inspection. And we call first inspection video. That someone can walk through it, see it, feel it, get the atmosphere. Second inspection will be physical. But that first inspection is the first launch. But get the owner to launch on social that they're announcing. We're very excited to sell our home. We've selected Melotti Real Estate as our agent. And if you click on the link, you'll see the showcase of the property. In showcasing property video, we've got the walk around where people do it with a camera and say, hi everyone, this is the kitchen, that's the bathroom. And then we've got the beautifully staged video shot. Certain homes require certain things, but what's your view on that authenticity of video versus the quality of the video?
That's interesting. Look, I think it depends on the home as well, and it depends on how much the home is going for, of how professional that video should be. I definitely think video over just photography is definitely the way we should be going in general. I think there's a lack of trust in photography these days. How many times have you seen a place that looks gorgeous and huge, and then you go and see it and it's a shoebox? And that's happened so often now that I think audiences are starting to lose that trust with real estate via photography. And videography allows you to get a bit more authenticity of, this is actually the property. We're walking you through it. You're getting seeing the light, you're seeing the space, you're actually having the movement. So I think having a level of professionalism with how you set that up is quite important, so you are portraying it correctly. And I think if you go in there with, not having any lights and not setting it up too well, it's actually not authentic either, because it's looking too dark. It can look almost worse than it does in real life. So I think having those additional elements help with the authenticity. But I think it's important to not just do the in-house tour. I think it's about taking it even a step further. What is it like living there? What's the neighborhood like? What are the schools like? Getting the whole vibe of a day in the life of the house. Because before someone goes and looks at the house, they really want to step in there and say, what is my life like going to be here? Not just how big is that room. So I think taking that video to that next step is even more important, and getting that whole vibe around the house itself.
What a great tip for our listener. What's the community surrounding the home versus what's the size of the bedrooms? Because where the home sits is the value. Like everyone says location, location, location. But a property in one location versus the other, there could be millions of dollars of difference in the dirt, let alone the photography of the rooms. So getting that, this is the local shops, this is the local pubs, this is where you'll be living, and then let me introduce you to the home, would be a better story sequence.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Sorry, I'm just like bursting down. Because I do a lot of scripting as well for real estate agents, and that is the biggest thing I'm noticing. I don't know how everyone feels, but like some of the best videos I've seen is an agent walking down to the local pub and saying, hey, here's your local community. Here's, and like we know Alex Lumsden, who from London Agent, that's exactly what he does. And he gets amazing results because he actually goes down to the bar and says, hi, this is what it's like after 5 p.m. after work on a Friday. And then he goes into the property, then goes down and sees the nightlife.
Then into the paddy wagon later on.
Hopefully not.
But he gets up and he goes for the morning jog, and he then goes and buys the coffee. And so,
and talks with the local. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's happening in this right now, even in this interview. I think COVID has brought about the lift the veil. I just want to talk to you about the authenticity of it, but I still want to see nice photos because I may want to share those.
Yeah.
Ariel, what about the scan of a home where people are wanting control of their own tour, where in the panorama they can go upstairs, click into that room, I want to zoom in on a cracked tile. What's your view on that as the video side?
I personally think those are very beneficial. Everyone has a different way of how they want to explore and get sold on a home. So I'm always going to say having all the elements is best. I understand cost doesn't always allow it, but having someone that can go in there and really take the time to have it seen in that way can be more beneficial for a lot of audiences. But I think it's more about having all these different elements. And like you brought in the actual agent, I think it goes all the way back to having that video profile of the agent, having that understanding, showing that personality, building that trust, so that when they go in and do that other video and they're talking about it and they're explaining, it's actually about that trust that's already there with that agent when he's explaining that video process. And that's where that would become more beneficial than just that general capture type style video, if they've been able to gain that trust and relationship with their audience already.
Very good. So if we've got brilliant words and stunning videos coming through, let's just step it back a bit to the focus of real estate. And everyone knows real estate's about attract, engage, commit. And engagement comes from our video words, and then commit means they're going to buy it. Let's talk about attract. If we're going to run a social media tasking campaign, real estate's one thing, but you guys work across all different types of industry, and that's probably more interest of what we're not doing to what we could do. If you had to sell your own home or give guidance to an agent on the best way to attract the biggest audience to the property for engagement, what's working out there now in social?
Well, social advertising allows us to really target and really define who we want to broadcast our message to. And so if we look at it within real estate, I mean, we can define the audience from a demographic point of view, but we can also look at interest groups. We can look at people, whether they're, you've got to think about your market and think, are they local, that they're likely to be buying, trading up into this house or making a change, or is it that it's someone from out of the area that's then going to be purchasing the property? And in which case, then it allows you then to define where you're going to find your audience. So we can do that through geography quite easily in terms of social media, but other things we can be looking for are interests or things that are happening within their lifestyle, and they're making lifestyle changes. So if they're thinking about, okay, they're expecting, or they've just had a newborn child, and they might be in a certain sort of geographic area, say in Sydney, we can be targeting them based on the fact that we know that, hey, they're likely in the next few months to start considering, maybe we need to get a bigger house. Maybe we need to start looking at lifestyle changes that are going to go. And I think in terms of real estate, you guys have got a few different terms around different key moments in life in terms of, was it death and divorce and a few different things.
There's a bit in between. But
yeah.
So
beyond the lifestyle.
Beyond that, a bit of time. There's a great sale just happened here on the Central Coast. Stephen Guido's did a massive acreage, multi-million-dollar sale. Used a social campaign. Now, he's a senior agent, so he's used a service to do it. But he went Range Rovers, Eastern Suburbs, medical profession, and Lower North Shore. It went to a surgeon from the Eastern Suburbs. It was a direct hit. And that campaign was so powerful. A lot of people talking about Stephen's brilliant use of technology, meaning I get them to do that for me. But for those that do want to do it, what tools are people using to, say, anyone in Sydney driving a Range Rover in a medical profession who lives in Eastern Suburbs or North Shore, who may want acreage because they don't have to be as close to work anymore? How do you even do that?
Social media, through Facebook in particular. So all of that information exists within Facebook. If you look at the ad manager, we can go through and target and identify. You can look at those things from the geographic point of view, but then what you're looking at is the interest groups. And if there are, for good agents, you'll have a database as well of either people who have bought previously, who might have shown interest in properties as well. So you can build lookalike audiences off that database as well. So then you can identify other potential. You can't identify the person themselves, but you can target people that would fit a similar profile through Facebook. So it's when you start talking about properties that are higher value, that you have less draw in terms of the number of people that could actually purchase the property, and you've got to start thinking further and how you get in front of them. And they're not always looking on real estate or domain.
And with that, isn't it, once you have that and you have that targeted audience, I would say it's essential then that the content and the video is perfectly aligned for that audience.
Very much so.
So if you're going to make that much of a target of a niche, then it's about actually honing in on that audience and creating content that perfectly targets that, if you're going to get the correct click-through rate.
And that's a brave
particularly
thing
also, the key there is that if you look at, say, with the Guido's example, they're targeting a buyer that is about an hour and a half's drive from the location, and so they're not just going to kind of go on that drive for the potential chance that this house may be of interest to them. If they've got rubbish content, rubbish video and stuff that's really not showing it off.
You're not going to get them up the highway.
That's right. They're not going to invest their time in that. So I would imagine that based off the fact that there's some really good quality assets there that really do highlight what the property has to offer, it just means that any marketing campaign that's done to get that message out there is going to be so much more effective. And that's, for us, critical, working with those good marketing assets to promote a property.
And I think what's really important about this is the portal market is people that are definitely needing to find a home right now, and they're searching every night because they need somewhere to live. So you take Melbourne as the last couple of weeks. People sold their house 10 weeks ago, and you're not allowed to go and see houses. You know, that's a big dilemma in life, that where are my kids going to go to school? We've got to be out of this one and got to go to somewhere. But the good thing about social, and the difference about this and the stage marketing, is you can actually stimulate a market where someone says, I wasn't moving, but I'd buy that. There's a house behind me came for sale that I didn't know about, and I don't go up that street, but it had a full sandstone recording studio underneath the house that I would have bought.
I was going to say.
But I'm not looking for a house, but if a sandstone recording studio comes up, and other people would have looked at that house and thought, it's a funny looking rumpus, it's a dungeon. Whereas when you understand recording studios, there's probably $100,000 fit out there that's separate to the value of the home. So social can attract and stimulate a market where people think, I've walked past that home all my life, I didn't know it was for sale. How do we further attract people, and what would you recommend to people to get a following through social that leads to portal and then back through to conversion?
So if you look at it from a branding perspective, I think our work and a lot of our energy and time is spent helping the agent to be attractive when they are selling the home, but most importantly, when they're actually winning the work in the first place, so to actually get the stock. So what we're seeing in the market, particularly with estate agents, we also see it in other professional services, is digital media is making it easier for you to set up a boutique business on your own. No longer do you have to be part of the major franchise. It's easier to step out on your own. But to do that, you really still need to have an element of being unique. So in branding, when we talk about branding, we talk about a brand being unique, being aligned. So you must be aligned to the value proposition that somebody is looking for. You must be relevant, so you've got to be servicing a need. And then you must have trust, and you build trust over time. So when we look at branding for estate agents, what a lot of estate agents that go out and do create a boutique is they step out of the umbrella of the major very often, and they go, I'm going to do it off my book, but I'm going to look like them. And it's like, well, actually, all you're rolling yourself into there is you're just going to be able to talk the game better than them, or else they're going to say, the customer's going to say, why should I go with you? What you really need to do as a boutique agent is ask yourself why you want to be out of the umbrella. What is it that you're actually offering your audience that's different, and what's your identity? So what is your brand identity going to be, and how are you going to communicate that? Because the ones that are doing it really well are communicating it at every step. So they're communicating it when you visit their website. It's as much about how they're different and the lifestyle feeling that they're going to communicate to their target audience that their audience really loves seeing. Because we all know that most people now will go on to the large platforms if they want to search for a home, and they'll get the facts and features. So when they come to your agency's website, they're looking to see what is it that's different about the way that you present something that makes you the agency I want to go for. So for us, it's really about getting to grips with what is the identity, the brand identity that we have to communicate with you. Why are you different to that other agent that's going to be next door? Are you set up for digital? Are you really a brand that's talking in a digital space, or are you just doing what everybody else did last week? And you must do it at every step of the way. So whether you're communicating to the next customer who you're trying to get the stock from, or whether you're communicating to the potential buyer of the stock who you've already got, you must have that consistency of what it is the story, your own brand story is being told. And that's where we're seeing the main difference, is that those that are doing it well keep that authenticity and keep their story through both aspects. Those that are just another boutique that they're not as successful, and we find that they are not communicating their story very well.
This brings us to a great point, and something we speak to the agents a lot about. I'll say to the agents, when you post, ask yourself the question just before you hit submit, is this ego or info? And education-based marketing is totally different to popping champagne by yourself in front of the signboard,
Yes.
which is a concern where the community think, why do you just keep telling everyone that you've sold a house? Don't you sell houses? Imagine an accountant saying, I did 50 tax returns, they don't do that. So our messaging, our signal, our brand identity has become really important, that unless they're going to profit from your knowledge, no one wants to just see you bang on about how good you think you are. Mm-hmm. And the older you get, the better you remember yourself anyway. So people are looking at that and thinking, yeah, I don't like that, but I found that really valuable. So let's talk about content now. So I did one this week that the agents are going to use. I'll share it with you because it's a good time to tell everyone. But I actually had a need for it myself, and I think the best content comes out when you need something yourself, because the research is amazing because I need to know it. And my wonderful wife, Rob, and I, and our 6 children, want to get the young ones involved in real estate. The young ones today think, I'll never get a deposit, I'm paying $50,000 a year rent, it's never going to happen. So we did an audio with a lawyer on shared ownership, where all of us could buy a property together in a unit trust. You got 10%, I got 20, you got 30, and if we go to sell it, and we can live in it, and you can do all these wonderful things. But the whole goal was, how do we get parents excited to get their kids excited about real estate? So I reckon that one's going to go off. If it doesn't, do not listen to me ever again. But let's talk about education-based marketing. What's your thoughts, Chris?
Oh, look, I'm all for education. My opinion is everything you do in your marketing should be adding value. And I have an equation. Value is equal to entertainment plus information. And so the way like you said, every time I post, every time I do things, every time I do these kind of podcasts, it's all about how can I show my expertise in a way that my audience is going to find value. Yeah. And it's in everything we do. I think all 4 of us do this. Like even our websites are designed where it's not just we're amazing. It's like, here's how we can help you escalate yourselves. And so I think that creating a nice cloud, and I mean that creating cloud of content that is all about providing bits and pieces of education that really help your audience and attract the right audience is really key to any industry, but especially real estate, when people are in so many different perspectives. Like you said, there's the parents, there's the younger generation, there's the agents, you've got landlords, buyers, renters, leases, all these kind of different people that all are looking to agencies and agents for information. And I think even one step back from that is defining who you're targeting first. Because it's all well and good to go, here's my education piece, but it's like, who do I want to educate? And I work with a lot of real estate agencies around Australia, and the first thing I do is they will say to me, like one I work with is upstate in the Sydney Northern Beaches, and the first thing they say is, we want this message. And I'll say, who are you targeting? What's the goal here? Why are you educating them?
Yeah, and what are we fixing?
Yes.
That becomes the question, doesn't it?
Because then what happens is it stops you from having a scattergun approach of here's something to think of, boom, right? Whereas like your piece, you've got it where you're saying, I'm educating the parents to stimulate the children's interests. And so knowing
just on that, Chris, I sent it to one of our daughters this morning through Messenger, and she came back saying, what a good listen. And I was like,
oh wow, nailed it.
Testing done.
Yes, right. And it's a really good point, because when you know your audience, then you can educate them. And it's like anything, you can't educate people that don't want to listen, and that really comes down to knowing it. And look, Ariel, I know you're right there with you. We do things hand in hand a lot, and a lot of the time it's like, make us a video. And they'll say, okay,
it's special.
Who is this for?
Why
are we trying to achieve? What should they think, feel, do from this video? And that's exactly it. You can make all this amazing content, but if you don't know your audience, then who is it going out to?
You're in the wrong language.
Exactly. It could be the wrong language. So it's so key to have such focus in that pre-production strategy stage of making sure you know who you're speaking to before you even start with any of this content. But once you do, there's just so much amazing content you can do, mostly around video, like you said. And that authenticity, if you are truly making these to educate the audience that you've selected, You don't need to be selling yourself because that sells yourself.
It's natural.
Yeah.
It's natural.
Keeping
and
your
people are
leadership.
smart. If they're sitting there and you're telling them how everything works, and let's say your audience are the younger generation who think that they can't, make investments. If you can put authentic videos out there that aren't talking down to them, that's really relatable and explains how they can do it and do it in bite-sized way that they want to see formatted on the social platforms that they utilize, you are going to get that following and the respect and the trust for them to then want to go to you as an agent. So once you find out who that audience is, you pick what platforms and how am I going to put this content across, and then pick what kind of content I'm going to relay. Are we doing AMAs, like Ask Me Anythings? Are we doing training videos? There's just so many different ways you could get this across, and it's all based on the audience that you want to hit.
An education.
Ariel, I'll give you an example,
Yeah.
and you give us the guidance of what we should and shouldn't do. So let's say we want to build a seller series of videos, and they're going to be short, sharp snacks, but I don't know how long they should be. I'll need you to tell me that. But it could be the benefits of house washing the home and gurning the driveways to put a fresh feel in the property. That could be clip one. And then clip two could be what should or shouldn't you do in the final investment of renovations before a sale. How long should those clips be, and what tips would you have around that?
Oh goodness. The duration of those it really depends on where we're putting this. If this is in a email
Facebook?
marketing, okay, on Facebook, when it's on your channel, if you're not doing paid advertisement and they're already to your followers, they can be a little bit longer. They're following you, they want to hear from you, and they want the details. So if you go too high level for your actual followers, for your audience, sometimes they can feel like, oh, well, great, but what can I take from this? They really want to be educated. And education content is the one bit of content you actually can have a longer form video for, and it's acceptable because they're going there to be educated. Whereas if you're doing a promotional video and you're talking about how great you are for 3 minutes, no one wants to watch that. But if you're truly giving them feedback on how to make their house, better for selling, then they will sit there and they will listen, mostly when it's really good content that they're not going to be able to find just by going on Google. So it can be a bit longer as long as it's all to the point, focus on the audience at hand, and creating within that topic and not adding too much fluff. And also making sure, we were talking about that talking down, not using too much verbiage that the everyday person wouldn't understand. Because the moment you start putting all the jargon in, you lose your audience right away. So making sure it's really speaking directly to that type of audience that you're sticking to.
So your tone's really important here. I'm just
important.
sharing with you that other people have profited from this versus I'm telling you because you should, is like, there's just a different third-party neutralness there that's very important.
I keep bringing that up because it can change something that you could truly have such great intentions from it. But even picking the wrong voiceover, or the way you, if you're the one who's describing these different tips and tricks, how you say it to your audience. People are proud and they can get quite flustered if they don't understand these things, and they want to know how to do these things. And the moment they feel like they're being talked down to, or if you put too much jargon and all of a sudden they're not understanding it, or you're going too fast or you're going too slow, they can get confronted and frustrated and then take that out on you. However, if you do it correctly, then you are creating a bond that's going to go far past these videos, and it's going to create that relationship and that trust that you're looking for to then become their agent, or for them to recommend you to other individuals, because they say, that person knows this industry. I know that if I hire them with all this amazing content they give me, all this stuff I've learned now, they must know everything, and they're going to be the best agent for me. And that's the kind of response you want to get from this content.
Well, let's have one of those moments ourselves. I'm going to go to our digital strategist here, because the agent's listening right now and they're going, this is great, but how do I do this? And we know how powerful Facebook can be, and we've got the ad manager there. Not that people have probably gone into that part, they need advice or get someone to do that for them. But I want to talk sequences. when we look at, and I don't know the answers to this, so I'm fascinated myself, we hear all these things, including pixels, and how we'll retarget it, and they'll pop up all the time, and what's a pixel and where do you find one? Separate to that question. But sequence of, let's take video. I've got my video clip, it's all been done. Should I upload it direct into Facebook, or do I have it on my blog site, my personal web business site where my other good stuff is, and share it to Facebook to bring it back here? If I share it to Facebook, go in it like you're leaving. We prefer it when you load up in. What is the sequence to attract, engage, and commit? In our world is we booked an appraisal for a property or we bought the property. It's pretty simple, because a lot of social media people, and it's like one of those things when people say they're a social media expert, run, because quite often they've watched 3 videos more than you. There's a rockin' panel. But you hear all this stuff and it's like, well, I've got all these likes, but I haven't got one listing or one sale.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's like when a financial advisor says, you've got to think long term. That's Latin for, I'll be dead when you find out that you didn't earn any money from it. So this immediacy that the agent's saying, yep, okay, I'm prepared to do this social, but I want to see some results. Lisa Novak, another lady that we featured on this show, she generally gets 15 appraisals a week from social. And she breaks all the rules beautifully because she doesn't know what the rules are. But she's got a following where people think, you seem like a really nice lady who's a mum with 2 kids who would help me find a house or help me sell a house. And what she's done really well on is her signals, which is that brand identity. Yeah. But back to this sequence of questions of videos, where do we post them? Where should we be sending them? Like question.
So, yeah. Yes. Well, I mean, you kind of answered it a little bit, though, in the sense that you got it right about that Facebook prioritizes the video that's on Facebook. So if we look at it there, what I would do, I'd basically do all 3, in that I would have a video on your website, I'd have a video that's done through Facebook, through a social or through organic posting, and I would do a separate video for your ad. And I do that because they're all very different approaches, but it can actually be quite a good lead gen opportunity, though. So if we took, say, a video around the education process, and you wanted to look at this approach with educating kids about an approach to get into the market, you could do an ad that would be a short 15 to 30 second ad video.
Like a teaser?
Yeah, exactly. That grabs their attention and they think, oh, hang on, I hadn't thought about this. And we're able to target people that have kids within a certain area, that have different interests, and you can then put the ad in front of them and make them aware of this, and they hadn't thought about it and hadn't thought, oh yeah, I hadn't thought about the kids and getting into property, and this might be a bit interesting. So they can click on that and they can either then digest it in Facebook, or we send them through to the website and then they can have a bit
so
more
a blended approach.
Yeah, where it's the organic side of things, you can actually have a slightly longer video so that they're actually getting some more value out of it, so that while it's through their feed, if you are boosting it, they get in the feed and then they can actually digest that as they're sort of flicking through. So it's just, you would have slightly different formats, but I would do it on all of them, all related, because video is a great way of digesting a lot of information quite quickly.
And that's exactly what we were just saying when you said the length of the content. If it was more of a paid spot, that's where we would do that sharp and quick video to promo the education. But the education itself doesn't have to be sharp and quick, because they're already there. They want to be educated. So that's why it all depends where you're putting these videos. And that's why we always say have that strategy ahead of time. Understand where you're putting this, what pay you're putting behind it. Are you doing pre-roll YouTube ads? Are you doing Facebook advertisements? Are you sending them to the website? And all that is really going to affect the style and the length of the video you're doing.
Very good.
Would you like me to add to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, I think real estate itself, it's an emotional transaction at the end of the day, whether you are the seller or whether you're the buyer. From a branding perspective, what you need to do is ensure that the emotional transaction that you're undertaking, the way that you present that, is connected to your brand. And this comes back to the brand identity point that I was talking about, where you really need to make sure that what authenticity you bring through, what story you're bringing through is actually relative to the brand and the audience that you're trying to connect with. Now, we talked a little bit before about, okay, know your audience, but you don't necessarily have to show the way that you approach different audiences is key, because you might be somebody who says, you know what, I'm actually quite comfortable dealing at the smaller end of the real estate, so I may not make 10 particular short, snappy videos about how to improve the sale. I might be more focused on we can come in and we can do the sale quickly for you and we can achieve a result. So that comes back to really knowing what is the emotional experience that you want the buyer and the seller to have, and how does that relate back to your brand identity, and making sure that you're consistent in the way that you send that out through your messaging.
Well, let's throw an interesting question into the group. Facebook Marketplace, the garage sale that never ends. There's some amazing things popping up in that. I personally bought a Pearl Mini. If the owner of that is watching, I paid $6,000 for a piece of equipment that popped up on Facebook Marketplace. And now this is where pixels kick in, because in my wife's feed, shoes pop up. A multimedia broadcasting unit popped up in mine. So I'd obviously been on some high-end sites like Effian, and then suddenly I'm in the marketplace and this piece of equipment pops up. It was a short ad. I clicked on it. It went to their site. I watched the whole 40-minute tutorial, and I now proudly own it.
There you go.
So it's a really good example of, but that's a high-end purchase, but I'd never heard of this company. People said, oh, how did you find out about that? It found me. That's a very interesting, like everyone's saying, oh, this stuff pops up all the time. I was stoked this thing popped up. I've never heard of it. And it's fixed a massive challenge in our world of how we broadcast. How does that all work?
I mean, that's where the way I look at from a marketing approach. I mean, there's a lot of contention out there with Facebook and its ability to target people, and it knows so much about us that it can be used for good and for evil. And so that's something that, from a marketing point of view, we've got to look at our ethics and the way that we approach it. But your example there is a beautiful case of marketing where, if we had that every day and that was what was going on, marketing would be absolutely fantastic. And from an ethical point of view, we'd be very confident that we're always on the right side of things, because that's where it's really benefiting people's lives. It's helping us to identify people that have a particular pain, need, or a want, and we're able to provide content or a product or service that can help solve that for them and create a solution. So that's marketing in its most, I won't say purest form, but its finest moment.
But I would also say if that's the first time you've seen that entity pop up in your feed, there's a reason why you trusted that. So there was something about the way that
company?
Yeah. So the
Quality, like Road. I love Road.
And you were able to click onto it and then go on, I imagine, onto their website, and you were able to ascertain from the way that they were presenting themselves that A, it was German, B, that there was high quality there, and then you were able to watch a video that you could spend time and do some research and actually say, right, I can see the value in that proposition. Now, all of those, so see how all of the aspects, so the storytelling
is like an executive summary.
Yeah.
But the guy who did the video was not a presenter. He was one of the techs, and I loved that, because techs don't like presenting. Yeah. So, but he was so passionate about the product. You could see he just loved the company, the product. So I'm watching it, and then I rang the company as the distributor, who was in French's Forest. And I said, because he didn't ask me an important question, I rang through to buy it. And he said, do you want a demo of it? I said, I will, but if it does half of what the video said, I'll take it now. He goes, oh, have you watched it? I said, I've watched the whole video. I've onboarded myself. Yeah. I don't even have the box
yet. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I can unpack it, everything.
This is because they understand their audience. They know that the person that's clicked and is going to stay and watch that video already knows a lot about what they're buying.
They're a professional in their industry.
Yeah, and so what they're actually saying is, we're not going to get a professional presenter to present this because they'll see straight through it. We're actually going to get the tech to present it. He may not come across as the perfect polished presenter, but they know the language that he's using and what he's saying. Immediately they know that it's correct and it's true and I can rely on it. And you were sold.
Just to add to the story, I'd had quotes of $50,000 a year for a service that does this. And to fix it for that sort of money was just amazing. And I can do it myself. So I'm really excited, as you can see. But that's the whole thing, was saying that, attract, engage, commit. I was attracted because here it is, I'm engaged and it works. Real estate's no different though. If I live in a local area, Stephen Guido's, is brilliant at acreages, but he lives on an acreage.
Yes.
He's from that area. He understands what the land and the importance of the privacy is versus, I live in a unit, but I sell acreage. Yeah. Right? Yeah. How does that connect? That you say things, and I think this is a really big thing to bring up in this marketing conversation. A lot of people in real estate have the jargon, but not the behaviour. So if you're saying you're an absolute professional, brilliant real estate agent, why is your marketing crappy and the words are spelt wrong and the video clip was done with your daughter on an angle holding the camera? How does that connect? You're not the real deal.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you've really got to make sure you have clear brand identity, as I was saying, but you have consistency, not just in the way that you present yourself, but the way that you then deliver the service, because that's the trust promise. That's that final piece in the brand. If you do not have the trust promise, people see through it, and you might get, it was like, I think you were, when we were talking prior to doing this, you talked about your friend of yours who did the marketing for the drinks.
Yes.
Yeah, and they sold thousands of drinks on day 1, thousands of drinks on day 2, day 3, nothing. Because what was promoted in the marketing didn't fulfill the trust promise. It was a bad drink. Yeah.
I do a lot of messaging, and part of my role is the first thing I do is check, does this, because they'll tell me, they'll say, Chris, write my messaging, write my core concept, tell them that we do this, and I'll say, do you actually do that? And they might say, no, and I'll say, okay,
it's on my list.
Other like you might
tell them I'm
other,
6 foot.
Yeah. And other copywriters might be fine with that. For me, it's a point of contention because I know that it will work for a couple of days, and then people pierce the veil and they get to know your brand, and they go, you're not legitimate, and you're not, and like I said before, people are smart. It doesn't take, and you know what it is people put on the business hat and they forget to take it off and think that they are also a customer. And if they went to a brand that treated them the way they're trying to treat their customers, it never works. And then they jump on the Google review, and they leave you the most heinous feedback. And you've got to remember that for agents and everyone out there, that everyone is their own PR agency now. And so literally, if you have a bad experience and you're saying, we're marvelous and this is what we do, and you're presenting that promise, and then you don't deliver on it, and people find out very quickly, they tell other people. And the reverse is true as well. You get advocates who, when you are, like Ariel was saying, if you have a great key opinion leadership and you're delivering on your promise, and then you do it well, and then people will become your advocates. They scream from the rooftops of how amazing you are. Agencies this is a very big thing in the real estate world, because when you have someone that treats you so well, you just can't wait to tell people. You're like, it was streamlined, it was easy, and that's really part of that consistent messaging.
And the sorry, go ahead. Let's
talk about text-based marketing, which my only rule of thumb there is you must have been eyeball to eyeball with these people. Otherwise, the mobile number is unique. They're the only person on the planet with that number, whereas people change email addresses. But we're seeing sequences now where, I know ourselves, we as a training company, we'll send out after the event a Net Promoter Score text message that goes out. And it goes out, and if they text above 6, meaning they're a promoter, it then says, thank you so much. Would you do the honours of a Google review? And they click on that, and we're straight into a Google review. So we're able to get rapid reviews. If they're below that, we just wish you well.
Thanks for coming.
Good luck with life. Yep. But text in the video is totally different to email in the video. You are, boom, straight on their channel. 95% of them are open within the first couple of minutes, versus email can get lost because we're all bombarded with it. And the COVID email spike has just been enormous. I think database would have reduced. We've unsubscribed so much in this time. But what about text-based marketing? What's our view there?
For me, I look at very powerful when used in the right circumstances and with the right intention. If you're doing it to just broadcast market, no. Worst thing you can ever do for your brand. And I think we're seeing that happen probably a little bit too much. I mean, there's certainly, I've noticed at least recently through COVID, there's been a lot more telemarketing. My phone's constantly just getting people that have managed to get my number, and now I'm very heavily screening calls. And then from the text-based side of things, you must get permission, in the sense that, okay, if I've been to an open home, I've given you my number, and you send me a text, great, no problems there. And that's good because it actually tells me that you've actually logged in the system and, okay, you recognise that I've been there, so that's fine.
It's convenient, right?
It's convenient.
So
it makes perfect sense. Because that is, if you look at text-based sort of text messages, that's getting to me. It's getting to my inbox and it's getting to me, and I'm actually reading through it. It's not like I get hundreds or thousands of those that I do in my email.
It's concentrated.
I'm getting a lot less, and so I'll pay attention to that. And so if you then go and do a whole bunch of sort of mass marketing with it, you're abusing my trust to that service.
Stop.
And so I'll straight away unsubscribe to that, and I'll actually be pretty annoyed, and that'll leave a pretty bad taste in my mouth about that particular agent, going, well, I'll never use them.
Yeah.
So I think so long as you're using the right
restraining
context,
order.
That's right.
But it is a good, like Lee was right, there is a good side to it when done right.
Yeah.
When done well, incredibly effective, and shows that you're on the ball. That you're using technology and you're using it in the right way and actually enhancing the experience as opposed to detracting from it.
And that can be as simple as, hi Helen, great new property, click on the link, let me know what you think. And bang, they're into the beautiful showcasing of the digital video, text, everything's there, or even back to their own landing page. I think a lot of people don't use their own landing page enough, and text is a great way to get people to.
But I think with that, the key with that, and I think I'd emphasise with Mike, is you don't send Helen every single property you've got listed. You need to know that Helen is looking for a 3-bedroom place in a cul-de-sac like this, and then it's like, click, go to the link, and Helen goes, these guys are fantastic. Yeah. They know exactly what I want, as opposed to, we've just sent you a 1-bedroom apartment in a back street. No, I don't want to know you now. Stop, because you've just put me on a broad brush marketing. And I think that's the beauty of digital now. It's the ability to be so targeted because you can capture a lot of information. And let's be honest, when people are looking for homes, they are free with the information they're prepared to offer you as to what they're trying to find. So as any sort of real estate agent, you need to really capture that data and use it well.
Very good. Final question for all of you. When we look at attract, engage, commit, which has been a bit of our theme, is it still good practice to say, well, I've got this Facebook link that I want people to look at. I'm going to text the link out to get them to Facebook, to watch the teaser video, to go to the full explainer, the video explainer of what we do. What's your thoughts on using text blend to, okay, I've got you direct one-to-one, but you've clicked on it and you've just opened it up in Facebook because Facebook wasn't letting me see you, and now I can see you because you're coming in from outbound. How does that work?
I'll start because then you guys will have more to say. So look, from my perspective, I think, as I said, if it's targeted and it's useful, then that's really strong. But more importantly, if you've actually understood your brand correctly and the audience you're trying to target, and you've been consistent with the way that you've messaged to that audience, they should be following you already, and it should be in their feed.
Right.
So, and if you're really strong with your brand identity and you've tied all the dots, then they should already be there. But, there's always the new one to come through. Yep.
Look, so long as you, like Kristin mentioned before, so long as you're texting out to, and it's personalized text with it, that's a very relevant, property that fits with the criteria that you went to an open, and the agent sort of talked to you about what type of property you're looking for. You told them, I'm looking for 4 bedrooms, near the beach, whatever it is, and they then text you something that's highly relevant. Then absolutely, that's fine. And there's no problems with blending the media, and it's actually a very clever way of doing it, because once you then can do the tracking side of things, then it unlocks a lot more power. But you haven't done it in a way that you've abused their trust in doing it. You've done it in the sense that you've actually provided them genuine value, and then you've actually enabled other forms of marketing and stuff that you could do in future.
Very good.
Just to add to that, because I think we'll have similar messaging here, but just to bring it back a step further, that the consistency is really the most essential thing when we're talking about any of this. You need to make sure that if you are sending texts or you're doing Facebook posts or you're doing emails, that you're doing it in a consistent fashion that's building trust, and they know they're going to hear from you. It's not out of the blue, because the worst thing you can do is, we haven't sold this house yet, or oh my gosh, we haven't as many, and then you flood them with texts or flood them with videos or flood them with links, and that's going to cause the issue. So I think with all of this here, it's about how am I putting a plan forward that's something when they get that, they already know that, okay, they know me, they're sending me the correct things, I trust them that I don't need to unsubscribe right away because they're not going to flood me all of a sudden in a month with all these things, because I know they have that consistency with their contact.
It's usually because it's not hard to do that, to judge that, right? From an ethical point of view, you just think to yourself, you think, if I was to get this, you know,
how would I feel
about it?
Versus I should be doing it.
Yeah.
And I think, just in wrapping up, one of the greatest sins of real estate is the longer the property's on the market, the less the purchasing community expect to pay, because it's stale, it's done the wrong thing. So the impact early is really important. And social, video, content, that first week and a half, 2 weeks is really important that you get the engagement level so that when it goes on the portal, because the portal is still one of the most powerful channels, but the agents make the mistake of going on the portal at the wrong price. So if you're 50 or 100 grand out on the portal, doesn't matter how much marketing you spend, you're communicating to the wrong person. But if you use social to get an engagement and understanding and then go portal, it just ramps up beautifully. That everything we've talked about now has got its sequence, it's got its formula, we've got the content, we've got the video, we've got the attraction, we've got the brand identity right, and then you can just repeat that performance. And we started this interview off, or this podcast off with, we do it so well with the house, but we don't do it with ourselves, and bringing that lesson together is a magnificent way of learning. But I want to thank all of you for appearing on this very unusual panel of shared information and doing it for the real estate industry. I want to thank you all for joining us.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lee, for joining us. So thank you very much for joining us for this episode of For Marketers. And we have been interviewing Lee Woodward from Realtair, and we are very fortunate that you've joined us, and I hope that everyone got a lot of education about real estate marketing. And please don't forget to contact us if you need any personalised assistance. So my name is Chris from Melotti Media, and I look after the word side of marketing.
Arielle Bowers from Two Giraffes. We're a full-service video production and animation studio.
Mike Sandys, Managing Director of Oddball Marketing, where we implement action-oriented marketing strategies.
And Kristin Hancock from Fountains Watch Branding Design Studio. We are a brand identity and brand strategy design studio.